To estimate the cost of installing a 400 amp 120/208 volt 3-phase electrical service, we must consider several factors including materials, labor, permit fees, disposal fees, site accessibility, and inspection fees. The first major cost will be the materials required for the installation. This includes the 400 amp service entrance equipment, encompassing the panel, meter, and current transformer or CT cabinet. The cost for this equipment can range from approximately $1,500 to $2,500. Next, we will need to factor in the cost of the copper conductors and the associated fittings necessary to handle the 400 amp service. This can range from $500 to $1,000 depending on the length of the run, the size of the conductors, and the specific type of fittings used. The conduit and fittings required to protect the conductors from the weather and physical damage also need to be included in the estimate. Expect to spend $250 to $500 on these items. In addition to the materials, labor is another significant cost component. For a project of this scale, it is reasonable to assume that 2 electricians will be needed for approximately 8 hours to complete the installation. The labor cost for 2 electricians working for 8 hours can range from $1,200 to $1,800. This estimate assumes that the electricians are experienced and qualified to perform the work safely and efficiently. Now let's break down the labor tasks involved. Firstly, there is the task of disconnecting the existing electrical service. This requires careful planning and execution to ensure that the power is safely shut off and that there are no hazards present. Secondly, there is the installation of the new service entrance equipment, including the panel, meter, and CT cabinet. This involves mounting the equipment securely, making the necessary electrical connections, and ensuring that everything is properly grounded. Thirdly, the process of running and terminating the conductors. This includes pulling the wires through the conduit, connecting them to the appropriate terminals in the panel and meter, and making sure that all connections are tight and secure. Fourthly, setting and connecting the meter. This requires working with the local utility company to ensure that the meter is properly installed and calibrated. Fifthly, connecting the main breakers in the distribution panel. This involves connecting the breakers to the incoming service conductors and testing them to make sure that they are functioning correctly. Other considerations include permit fees, disposal of old equipment, accessibility and complexity of the installation site, and inspection fees. Permit fees can vary widely depending on the location, so it is essential to check with the local authorities to determine the exact cost. The cost of disposing of the old electrical equipment must also be factored in. This may involve hiring a licensed contractor to remove and dispose of the equipment properly. The accessibility and complexity of the installation site can also affect the overall cost. If the site is difficult to access or if there are obstructions that need to be removed, the labor costs may be higher. Finally, inspection fees may be required to ensure that the installation meets all applicable codes and standards. Taking into account all of these factors, the total estimated charge for installing a 400 amp 120/208 volt 3-phase electrical service can range from $3,450 to $5,800. However, it is important to remember that this is just an approximate estimate. The actual cost may vary depending on a number of factors, such as the location, the specific materials used, and the labor rates in the area. For example, using aluminum conductors instead of copper conductors can potentially reduce the material cost. Firstly, aluminum is typically less expensive per pound than copper, leading to direct savings on the cost of conductors. Secondly, for large services like 400 amps, the size of the conductors required can be substantial. Aluminum conductors, while requiring a larger gauge than copper for the same ampacity, can still be more cost-effective overall due to the price difference. However, it is crucial to consider the specific requirements and limitations of using aluminum conductors. Firstly, aluminum has a higher resistance than copper, so larger conductors are needed to carry the same amount of current. Secondly, aluminum is more susceptible to oxidation, which can lead to loose connections and potential fire hazards. Therefore, proper termination techniques and the use of anti-oxidation compounds are essential when working with aluminum conductors. Thirdly, local electrical codes and regulations may impose restrictions on the use of aluminum conductors in certain applications. It is important to consult with a qualified electrician and local authorities to ensure compliance with all applicable codes and standards. Also, specific components such as breakers, panels, and enclosures have different price points based on brand, features, and availability. Firstly, name brand equipment from reputable manufacturers often comes with a higher price tag but may offer better quality, reliability, and warranty coverage. Secondly, features such as surge protection, arc fault protection, and remote monitoring capabilities can add to the cost of the equipment. Thirdly, the availability of specific components can also affect the price. If certain items are in high demand or short supply, the price may be higher. Moreover, the complexity of the installation impacts labor expenses. Factors such as the distance between the service entrance and the distribution panel, the presence of obstructions, and the need for specialized equipment can all affect the amount of time and effort required to complete the job. Firstly, longer distances between the service entrance and the distribution panel will require more time and materials to run the conductors. Secondly, obstructions such as walls, pipes, or other utilities can make it more difficult to install the conduit and conductors. Thirdly, specialized equipment such as trenchers, lifts, or concrete cutting tools may be needed to complete the installation, adding to the overall cost. Don't forget permit and inspection costs, which are geographically variable and ensure code compliance and safety. Firstly, permit fees vary widely depending on the location. Some jurisdictions may charge a flat fee, while others may base the fee on the value of the project. Secondly, inspection fees are typically charged by the local authorities to ensure that the installation meets all applicable codes and standards. These fees can also vary depending on the location and the complexity of the project. Thirdly, it is important to factor in the time and effort required to obtain the necessary permits and schedule inspections. This can sometimes be a lengthy process, and any delays can add to the overall cost of the project. Disposal fees also should be accounted for, particularly for hazardous materials. Firstly, old electrical equipment such as panels, breakers, and wiring may contain hazardous materials such as lead, mercury, or asbestos. Secondly, these materials must be disposed of properly in accordance with local, state, and federal regulations. Thirdly, the cost of disposing of hazardous materials can vary depending on the type and quantity of materials, as well as the disposal facility used. Finally, the qualifications and experience of the electrical contractor can impact the overall cost. Firstly, hiring a licensed and insured electrical contractor can provide peace of mind knowing that the work will be done safely and correctly. Secondly, experienced contractors may be able to complete the job more efficiently, saving time and money. Thirdly, it is important to check the contractor's references and reviews to ensure that they have a good reputation and a track record of quality work. Remember that this estimate serves as a guide. Obtaining quotes from several qualified electricians in your area is crucial for an accurate assessment. They can assess the specific requirements of your project and provide a more precise cost estimate. Consulting with multiple professionals ensures you receive competitive pricing and a comprehensive understanding of the work involved. They will consider factors such as local code requirements, the specific layout of the property, and any potential challenges that may arise during the installation process. Moreover, discussing the project with several electricians allows for a comparison of different approaches and solutions, ensuring the most cost-effective and efficient outcome. This might also identify potential cost-saving opportunities or alternative methods that were not initially considered. Always prioritize obtaining detailed, written quotes from each electrician. These quotes should clearly outline the scope of work, materials to be used, labor costs, and any additional fees. Comparing these quotes will provide a clear understanding of the costs involved and help make an informed decision. It's also advisable to inquire about the electrician's experience with similar projects and their familiarity with local codes and regulations. This ensures that the chosen contractor is well equipped to handle the complexities of the installation and can complete the work in compliance with all applicable standards.